My name is Mark DiTargiani. I am a current student in the Speakers Academy class, and I'm your morning MC today. We're going to begin by welcoming you all. We have the current class, we have the future class, and we also have a good number of guests here. So welcome, everybody. To continue that welcome, I'm going to introduce you to the National Speakers Association Northern California Chapter President, Gary McKenzie.
You have made a wise investment. You are investing your time, your most valuable asset, to come here today to understand what you can do to improve your speaking skills and your presentation skills. And you may be like I was 5 years ago when I attended my first NSA meeting here in Northern California. I was thinking, I would like to make this transition to become a full-time speaker and trainer, and I wasn't quite sure how to do it. I was looking for someone to help me along the way. Now you may be thinking, well, Gary, how did you make that transition from being a member in the audience to being on stage as president of the National Speakers Association of Northern California? Well, my journey actually started 5 years and 3 months ago. I was in Las Vegas, Nevada, attending a Toastmasters conference. And at the end of the conference, I met with one of my coaches, who's the 2001 World Champion of Public Speaking for Toastmasters. His name is Darren LaCroix. And Darren took me aside and said, Gary, are you a member of NSA? No. Gary, if you're serious, you got to be a member. Now, I didn't tell him. I didn't know who clue what NSA was. So I went back home and I did what you would do. I Googled it. And to my delight, I found out that the National Speakers Association had a chapter right here in my backyard. And their meeting was when? The very next Saturday. You. Fate. So I took a deep breath and I went, not knowing what to expect. And I went into the room, and I met amazing people who had a dream similar to mine. Their dream was to stand on stage and give speeches to people. And they didn't give me that look, like, are you nuts? They shared my passion, and I said, this is where I belong. And so from there on, I went through the process to become a professional member of the National Speakers Association. And ideally, some of you here today, I recognize some individuals in the front row, are in that process, and others of you will choose to begin that journey, become a professional speaker, professional member of the National Speakers Association of Northern California. Now, before I call Mark back to the stage to introduce our keynote speaker, I, as your president, would be totally remiss if I didn't mention to you that there's an opportunity for you to continue your learning next Saturday. Next Saturday, right next door at the South San Francisco Conference Center, we have two speakers coming in. One speaker is Pete Weissman. Pete's goal is to help you craft sound bites so that you are memorable, repeatable, and retweetable. The other speaker is David Siebert, and he helps you convert the written word into pictures. So our program is called Say That, Picture This. So I invite you to come back next Saturday, next door, South San Francisco Conference Center, and continue your journey of learning and discovering how you can improve your public speaking skills and taking this next step to help improve your business. So with that, allow me to invite Mark DiTargiani back to the stage. Please give him a welcome.
Thank you, Gary. This is a great opportunity, and today is September 20th, and September 20th is a very important day in history. There's been amazing things that have happened on September 20th. In 1519, Ferdinand Magellan set sail from Spain to circumnavigate the globe. I mean, what an event in 1519. In 1973, Billie Jean King defeated Bobby Riggs in the Battle of the Sexes tennis match in the Astrodome. Pretty amazing event that was as well. And only 3 years ago, this was the day that the military actually got rid of the don't ask, don't tell policy, which opened up the military. But this year, September 20th, 2014, is going to be remembered for the knowledge and the historic knowledge that we're going to receive from our speaker today. You know, the speaking game has changed. Audiences have listened to so many speakers that they're becoming jaded. Meeting planners have so many choices out there that speakers really have to stand out and be different. Even if you've had a lot of success, you still have to be, can't get complacent, and you still have to be diligent in preparing your presentations. So if you agree with any of those statements, you're in the right place and the right room. Our speaker today is a CSP, a CPAE, a Cavett Award winner, and was our first female national NSA president and the founding president of the NSA Northern California. But that's not why we invited her to speak today. Meetings and Convention magazine named her one of the 10 most electrifying speakers in America. Kiplinger's Personal Finance magazine says the 6th best way to invest in you is to take a Patricia Fripp presentation skills workshop. But that's not why we asked her to speak here today either. Patricia is now virtually everywhere with her interactive virtual training, Fripp VT, on powerful, persuasive presentations. She even followed me on Twitter this week. That's impressive, but that's not why we invited her here either. She's here because of her unique ability to help speakers like you prepare and present powerful presentations. Please welcome the speaker, Patricia Fripp.
Thank you. Superb job. Fabulous. I echo President Gary with congratulations for making the decision either to be part of the Academy or to give up your Saturday morning. And I won't say give up, to invest your Saturday morning to help you be more powerful on whatever platform you find your life involves, be it the boardroom, the seminar room, or the convention hall. The first time I attended the National Speakers Association, I was a 32-year-old hairstylist. And I thought, nobody's going to want to talk to me. I only talk to Rotary clubs and hairdressers. And what happened was, one, I saw the vision of what was possible. I was smart enough to know this is a long-term goal. And secondly, I got discovered by a big-time promoter that booked me to speak to 2,000 people on the same program with Dr. Robert Schuller, the minister from Garden Grove. Only in America and the National Speakers Association. And beware, the first time I turned up at NSA, I founded the chapter and was president for 2 years. So who knows what can happen? Pay attention. The purpose of this event is to look at how do you prepare and present a powerful presentation. However you define your presentation, we are going to look under what might be obvious and take a closer look. I am very excited to always be invited to be part of the Academy program, and following my instructions, we all have bosses, from Michael Lee, he said, Fripp, less content, more working with, mini coaching with our Academy members. Does that work for you? And anyone who is not an Academy member, we are not forgetting you. My favorite question of all of us, whether we are beginning, intermediate, or advanced, is, are you practicing to improve or to reinforce bad habits? And of course, we do both. Practice does not make perfect. Practice makes permanent. And the more experienced we are, very often the tougher it is to change. If you consider yourself a novice, why not start with the best practices from the beginning? And as you self-identify, will you raise your hand if you would consider yourself a novice beginner speaker, by your own definition? Will you raise your hand if you consider yourself good intermediate? Obviously, you're working on it because you're here. And where are the I'm so damn good I should be given the seminar? All right, Michael Lee put his hand up, and I agree. However, I know, Michael, there are a lot more thinking it. How you get to your next level of perfection is, one, understand what it is that you do that works. And do not be modest. And part of being involved in a community like the National Speakers Association, like Toastmasters, like the Academy, perhaps your own mastermind group, is that you are with others who are equally excited about your success as you are. We generally want to hear, because there are not too many people, especially if they don't understand what it is we do, who want to say, oh, you should have seen me. They were begging for my autograph. They were leaping to their feet. You can't tell that to the person in the next booth if you work in an accounting office. And the same time, you need to have someone. I remember getting in my car and calling Susan Rowan and saying, oh, it was awful. They were drunk. They didn't listen. I know I shouldn't have accepted speaking to men who work in a gravel quarry. It isn't my target audience. I just didn't have any other speeches that week. Should I send the money back? And Suzanne said, you were fine, they failed. You suffered, keep the money. And just in case you're thinking, but I heard you were famous, I heard you were good, you're a CPAE, you mean you bomb? Yes, there are 3 types of speakers. Heard this many years ago at NSA from Doc Blakely. There are those speakers who have bombed, those who will bomb, and those who will bomb again. And frankly, if you have not failed some way, you're probably not challenging yourself enough. I started as a 15-year-old shampoo girl in a hairstyling salon in England, very posh salon. And I realized as a very young woman, I have the opportunity to have access to successful, rich women. And as soon as I got to know them, I used to say, what were you doing when you were my age? How did you make your money? Did you make it yourself or did you marry it? If you made it yourself, how'd you do it? If you married it, where did you meet him? Good market research. May I suggest one of the best educations is to ask questions. Take advantage of where you are. Now, certainly, there is the question that you would ask people who have had more experience than you. Because one, you have to analyze what you have going for you and share your successes. 2, we also have to understand where are some of our weaknesses. What are we doing that distracts from us being as powerful as we can be? That means you have to take some time in watching and listening to what you say. And then 3, you get feedback or you learn new ideas from individuals who know more than you do about the subject of presenting. No, we don't know more about what you know, because we all invest our careers learning certain expertise on how we make a living. We are experts in that. That does not automatically transfer into being an expert in speaking. And we've all seen many corporate leaders who are brilliant, however, they cannot clearly, concisely communicate their ideas. Because having expertise in one area does not necessarily transfer. I challenge you to think. The quality of the information you receive depends on the quality of your questions. Will you raise your hand if you're at the National Speakers Association convention? Just a fabulous convention. Good. And there was a very unique panel called it was a takeoff of the Shark Tank, and was it Speaker Tank? But they had the NSA, the really movers and shakers, the people who are brilliant consultants, run big businesses, and 4 individuals came up and presented their ideas. And it was a superb session. And one of the gentlemen, I saw him in the coffee shop, and I said, congratulations, you gave a fabulous presentation, and I would not have had the confidence to do that. And he said, well, I'm glad you liked it, because all the techniques I use, I learned from you. Make a note. Re-listen to some of my own materials. Because I really would not have had the confidence to do it. I really wouldn't, as cocky as I am. And he sent me an email this week and said, could I have a few minutes of your time? And I responded, time is one commodity I have very little of. Specifically, what would you want to ask? And his question was, when you were in the hairstyling business, that was the leading edge of advertising technology, the most distinctive Yellow Page ad. When you were in the hairstyling business and you were becoming a professional speaker, one, where did you get your first clients? And then how did you maximize those clients? I sent an email back saying, what do you think I said? And it was 6 words. What were the 6 words? Would you like to guess? The first sentence. I gave him 3 sentences. The first question was, the first word was, can't you do blank than that? Better. Why? If you have my attention, and when I say my attention, I mean anyone who has been to 38 consecutive NSA conventions, somebody who has made a living full-time for 30 years, someone who's had access to great minds through my own networking. You can't do better than that. Now, why did I make that rather cheeky statement? Make him think, yes, but what did I want him to think about? A better question. Because the next line said, now look, first of all, he has, and I can't mention his name, he has a unique point of view. He's got experience people would pay for. He has just had the main platform at a national convention. He's asking an ex-hairstylist, who admittedly a successful one, who has, yes, become having a career he wants, However, to ask me what I did in 1984 before we even envisioned the internet, contact management systems, email, YouTube, LinkedIn, websites, what I would recommend he asked was, based on your almost 40 years experience, knowing what you now know, how would you suggest because of course I know some of his background, would start developing my business? Let's go back. The quality of the information you receive depends the quality of your questions. And with some of you, I was schmoozing earlier, if you came in early, and I asked the question, you might have the opportunity to ask a question. Write it down. Make sure it's clear, concise, and pertinent. And if you write it down, you're not going to write 36 paragraphs, which is very often what people deliver if you ask them a question. Is anyone brave enough to say, I have my well-thought-through question? I can't promise a well-thought-through answer, but...
I'm ashamed of my question. Can I change it now?
Cool.
No.
What was the question you're ashamed of?
It was a sarcastic one.
Well, again, it probably, if we were social, it would be fun. It would be entertaining. If you only have one question, what would it be? Does anyone have a clear, concise, well-stated, well-scripted question? Well, think about it. Oh, you have? Good. All right, Linda.
I'd like to know, based on your experience, what would be your recommendation of how to start in this business?
One, you're at the right place, because at NSA and the Academy, you are already tapping into a lot of expertise from people who are already where you want to be. Two, I would look at what is available now that we never dreamed of in 1984, which was the inexpensive ways you can market yourself. YouTube, LinkedIn, and the other social media, but LinkedIn, Facebook, blogging, and YouTube, all of which takes time. You might pay people to help you how to do it better or design it for you. None of that was available. That would be, is that a good enough answer? Now again, what is good about that question is it relates to everybody. Do we have another question? All right.
So, knowing what you know now, what was the best investment you've ever made in yourself, and what was the worst useless investment?
Well, that's two questions, so let's pick the first one. The best investment I made was to invest in high-caliber speech coaches at a time when nobody else was admitting they were doing it at NSA. Little did I know that that would help me, and one day I would become one. And because I invested in more than one, I had unique points of view. All right. All right.
So you mentioned all these platforms like YouTube and Twitter that serve as promotion mechanisms, but my question is, these platforms are also competition for live venues. So although you're able to promote yourself, you're also competing.
And your question is,
So
are these competing?
Well, are these net beneficial is the question. Do you think that there are more opportunities or fewer than there were in 1984?
There are more opportunities than in 1984. The speaking market is a lot bigger. However, the competition is greater. And any of the seasoned speakers, I would say my contemporaries, the people we started, those who are working and doing well have continued to grow, continue to invest in learning new technologies, new ways to get the message across. So the quick answer is, when it comes to promoting yourself, you need to promote yourself in an ongoing, consistent, relentless way. You start. You don't stop. However, what you do is you refocus, redirect what you are doing. If your marketing is superb and your platform skills are weak, you might get more opportunities. However, the only way you build a sustainable business is to exceed expectations once you're there. So you can have a wonderful, well-edited clip on YouTube or your website. However, if you are not as good as the well-edited clip, you won't build a long-term sustainable business. On the 28th of August, I went to hear One Night with Al Pacino, the Mirage Hotel. And I admit, I've never been impressed with Al Pacino. He doesn't do many talk shows, not a great speaker, pathetic on the Academy Awards if he's accepting. So I wanted to see him, and one comment he made, he said, to be a truly great actor is something you need to be born with. And I can accept that. However, if we relate this to the mere mortals of the world, and certainly I have, and so have you, seen speakers who they're born to be on the platform. They are just naturally charismatic. Still have to learn the techniques. But then what he said next, I thought gave us mere mortals hope. He said, and I relate from acting to speaking, desire trumps talent. I have been, modestly speaking, good at two disciplines. One, cutting hair, and two, speaking. I did not start either of those enterprises with great talent. I promise you I didn't. What I started with was a personality that suited what I was doing. We have friends who are multimillionaires in the speaking and consulting industry, and they are introverts. However, I'm sure you'll agree, if you can walk into a room of strangers and meet people and schmooze, it will be easier for you. So one, I had a personality that suited. Two, I have an interest in and a commitment to. There's a big difference. We have all met hundreds of people who want to be great speakers, great leaders, great anything, great actors, great singers. They have an interest in, they don't have a commitment to. Because you do know there is quite a lot of work making everything look easy. Then I had good teachers. I worked for great bosses. Two, I practice more than everybody else. As a hairstylist in England, apprenticeship, people on a Tuesday night pay 2 shillings to come, the apprentices would do the hair. Or the other girls would do 1 or 2, I'd do 5, and say, can I bring models in on a Monday? You don't have to be the best. You don't have to be the smartest. You need to have good instructions and practice more so it becomes second nature, whatever the discipline is. Then, what took speaking and cutting hair to a whole new level was when I started teaching others. Because when you teach what you believe you have learned, you have to simplify and demystify all your experience in a way to explain it. And I would challenge you to any notes that you take from any programs you have at NSA, anything you learn in the academy, is then interpret it with your own observations and realizations. Teach it to somebody else. And as you are observing an NSA meeting, an academy meeting, a meeting in your own venue, your corporate world, wherever you go, I would challenge you to think, what are you learning that you see, that you observe, as well as what you hear? If you have noticed any aspect of this meeting that has nothing to do with anybody using words, what lesson have you learned that could be helpful to you in your own career in the future? All right. Can we have a mic runner? I'll certainly talk to that gentleman. Okay, well, I'm not waiting. Here he is, right there, Russell.
For me, the fact is that you're not moving around. When I talk, sometimes I have a tendency to wander the stage. And I've noticed that every time that you present something of importance, you stay in one place and you're focused.
It is amazing how many executives and speakers who think to be dynamic, I have to keep moving. When I was younger, and if many of you have watched my career for many years, I used to move a lot more. Now, I've realized, and I certainly am not telling you, Russell, not to move. Understand the rules of movement. We all, everything we do adds to or distracts from our message. So, for example, if you want to move, and this isn't a big stage, if you want to move, as a general rule, there are exceptions to every rule. However, 98% of the time this would work. I would say when you walk on stage, stand still. How you stand represents the stability of your ideas, the stability of the organization you represent. Now, what you might want to do is you might start with an opening. Never ceases to amaze me that intelligent, well-educated, ambitious individuals frequently overlook developing the number one skill that is guaranteed to position them the head of the crowd. Namely, developing the ability to stand up and speak eloquently with confidence, or at very least, stagger to their feet and say anything at all. Take 2 steps forward on silence for dramatic effect. You don't do it more than twice in a presentation, or it looks like a technique. Because as Laurence Olivier said, the art is hiding the art. You step into the presentation. Now, at the beginning, and we all have accents to somebody, and it is an advantage if you have an accent. However, we need to be understandable. As an English accent who is now very Americanized, I'm sure most people can understand me. However, it's always good to let people tune in to the sound of your voice at the beginning without distractions. Then when you move, now the rules of movement is you move with purpose. In other words, it's very obvious that I intend to be moving. And when you get to the key idea, the point of wisdom, or the soundbite statement, or the $100 phrase, stand still. And that is as if you are verbally underlining and putting an exclamation mark on. Now let's just look at the difference. Never ceases to amaze me that intelligent, well-educated, and ambitious individuals frequently overlook developing the number one skill that is absolutely guaranteed. Now, which would you say would be easier for you to understand, if I stood still or if I walked around? Okay, good. Now that doesn't mean, now how do you know if any advice works? You might say, but I got energy, I'm going to move. All you do, Russell, is with a group, a friendly audience, or it could be, I don't suggest you do it if you're in corporate America to your management committee. However, running your own staff meeting, try both ways and see what the effect is. Then you will know if the advice is valid for you. One of the most absolutely incredible, dynamic, and he gives me permission to say it, Willie Jolly. Very few people are as good and powerful on the platform as Willie Jolly. And many years ago, we were on 2 programs together for 2 days. We were speaking somewhere, and then he was speaking at our chapter the next day. And it's very difficult to give unsolicited advice to people who don't ask for it. I knew Willie was as committed to be powerful as I was, and I said, Willie, would you like me to pretend to be Ron Arden, who was a speech coach I'd spent a lot of money with from a theatrical background? And he said, yes. And I said, you have so much fabulous, incredible energy. The quality of your voice, he was a jazz singer. It's absolutely fabulous. But you know what you're doing? You're giving your best lines to the wall. So he was moving, and he wasn't even making eye contact. So the words he used were great. Now you see Willie Jolly. He stands still. I'm not saying he doesn't move, but so you move on purpose. You move on transition from one point to the next. And you might move on a movement-specific phrase. A movement-specific phrase might be, so I walked into the boss's office, or as I was walking down the hall of your building, or I was walking in from the parking lot. Now, any of those, if you want to move, your movement is matching the words that you're saying. All right, Russell. See, that was a good question. I was going to say that later, but anyway, that's good. All right, perfect. Good. What other observation that has nothing to do with the words? Yes, sir. Nice to see you again.
I noticed that you are on a race platform. It's very important for me to see the face of the speaker because it conveys genuineness and spontaneity.
Okay, good. Yes.
We're trying to get that other light on, but we didn't want to make a nuisance. We're already making noise back here. So we're going to be working on...
Which light do you want on?
Well, we're trying to get
That
more
one?
light on you.
The one you're standing under is off.
That one's on. Yeah, we found the perfect spot.
And you thought you had good seats. Isn't it amazing how many short individuals, like us, perfect-sized people, come stand next to me? Can you see, is he the perfect size to dance with? And you know, we're like the little couple on the top of a wedding cake, actual size. Many individuals, there is a stage there, and they don't take it. Now, again, for variety with a longer program, you can get up but the most important content, and is certainly the beginning, start on stage. Good. One more observation. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, deliberate and intentional pausing to accentuate your points.
Okay, good. Wonderful. Lady there and Monica here.
I've been to courses where they teach you about making your point and staging yourself in particular places on a stage. Do you do that? Is that conscious with your movement?
Yes, it's part of, it could be related to